Anyways, just a couple of things about this meeting. So we are going to do things a little bit differently here. This room is a real odd room. It's not meant for sound the way a lot of smaller rooms were. It wasn't set up that way. So what we're going to do is have the public comment period in here. Everybody talks and does their thing. Please talk in the mic because that's how people online can hear. If you don't talk in the mic, then the people online can't hear. We're also monitoring how the sound is online, so we're going to adjust as we go if we need to. But anyways, the public comment period is going to be in here. We'll do the thing like we normally do. We're going to recess at the end of that, and the board will move into the boardroom because the boardroom is set up for sound much better than in here. So we're not trying to exclude anyone, but we're trying to work out the best way to compromise for everyone. So that's what we're going to do. So you can have a bathroom break, grab a drink, something like that. Also, when you're speaking, if you have any papers that you would like to pass out, just hand them to me. I'll pass them out to the board. And once you're up here, your 2 minutes start and you'll go. And I promise, even though it may not look like it, I really don't want to yell at you. So just as an FYI, but I will. So we saw it last time and the time before and the time before. So that's really it. And John will proceed with calling the meeting to order. And then the little button on the mic is where you turn it on and off.
All right. Do I have you? All right. Hopefully you can you all hear me in the back? Somewhat. I'll try to speak loud. All right. Oh, there we go. I'm on. That's better. All right. So first item here is going to be call to order. So I am calling the meeting, the September meeting of the APLS board to order. First thing that I would like to do, and this has been on my heart over the last week, just with everything that we've seen in our country, the division, the pain with an assassination, and the increased political divide we see. I really want to take this opportunity to open with a word of prayer, seeking unity, seeking respect for people of all backgrounds and all opinions. So I would like to recognize Pastor Troy Towns. So if you would come and lead us in a prayer.
How's everybody? I got kind of a preacher's voice, so y'all should be able to hear me pretty good. But I did text John when he asked me to come and pray. And I did ask him, what do you want me to pray about? Is there anything you want me to focus on? And he touched on some of it, but he told me, Troy, I want you to pray for wisdom. I want you to pray for unity. And I want you to pray for respect. And so some scriptures popped in my head. So I want to pray these scriptures, actually, okay? You guys for us today. So Father God, we come to you in the mighty name of Christ Jesus, Father. And Lord, we so desperately need your wisdom. Your word says that if any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that gives to all men liberty and does not hold back, and it shall be given. So Father, we seek your divine wisdom, Father, in everything that we do. Everyone in this room, Lord. We need your wisdom, Lord. Your word said, let us lean not upon our own understanding, but in all our ways, acknowledge you, Lord, and that you would direct our paths. And then, Father, for unity, Lord, you said how good and pleasant it is when brethren dwell together in unity. So, Father, I just pray right now for the spirit of unity. And like you said, in our nation, Father, there has been a divide, Father. But I remember, Jesus, you said one time that a kingdom cannot stand if it's divided against itself. So, Father, we just pray for unity. Lord, we pray that there will be those areas that we find, Father, that we agree, Father. How can two walk together unless they agree? So, Father, I pray that we find those areas that we can agree upon, Father, in the name of Jesus. And then finally, he talked about respect, Father. And your word says, let nothing be done in strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, esteeming others higher than themselves. So, Father, we pray right now that we don't esteem ourselves higher, that we don't look down upon anyone else. They may not think like we think. They may not have the same ideals that we have. But Father, we can still esteem them higher, that we would walk in humility, Father. For you say that you resist the proud, but you give grace unto the humble. And so, Father, we pray right now that your spirit would be in this room, would be in our midst, and lead us and guide us. Father, I pray in the name which is above all names, in that mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I would also like, recognizing not just spirit of unity and seeking God's wisdom, but also a respect for our country, do the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a flag over here. If you would join me. Salute. Pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I would accept, well, let's try it this way. Is there any objection to approving the agenda with two amendments? Those two amendments being elections to be added as the first item in unfinished business, and then in new business, adding as a third item, updated bylaws by the BPD, which is the blind and disabled, yes, department downstairs. They've just updated some bylaws. So with those two amendments to the agenda, is there any objection to the agenda as amended? Hearing no objections, the agenda is approved. That'll move us on to approval of the minutes from the July 17th, 2025 meeting. Do I have a motion, or are there any changes or edits to the minutes as distributed? All right, hearing no edits or changes, do I have a motion to approve? I have a motion from Jerry. Do I have a second? Second from Amy Minton. Is hearing no amendments and a motion and a second, the minutes are approved as distributed. Okay, so at this time we're going to hear from our audience. I'm actually very much enjoyed the last meeting, hearing so many unique positions and backgrounds. We will be retiring to the board meeting after a short pause. But I hope you will all stick around, watch the board meeting, and stay connected with this process. And look, you know, going back to some of what I said at the last meeting, I know there are a wide range of opinions in this room, probably about as far apart as you get in political spectrum, as far apart as you get in personal beliefs. And I think in a way that makes this room one of the most exciting rooms in the state of Alabama right now. Because I think it is through that difference of perspective and it's through difference of opinion that we grow as a people and we grow as a society. And I know am probably weird. I grew up in a family that celebrated debate. I took that to the next level and literally enjoy arguing. I know I am not normal, but through it, I always enjoy the learning. And I always try to respect the person that I'm talking to. And whether I disagree with them in one area, I have always found that there are others that I usually find that I agree with them and I can find common ground. And I think one of those things through months of the debate surrounding Alabama libraries has been that we all believe in two core principles that I think we can all agree on. One, that we want our libraries to be the best they possibly can for the people that we represent, the people in our communities. Two, that we want to put parents in charge of what decisions are made for their children. I think those are two great foundational places to start with as we hear from each other and we have dialogue and we talk about how best to move forward to get to those places. So I just want to welcome you here. I know the fact that you're here means that you have probably driven from all different parts of the state. And being from someone who lives just about 10 miles south of the Tennessee border, I feel your pain. So thank you for making the time to be here and being part of the process of what makes American government so exceptional, so special, which is the fact that we have representative government and we listen to people and we give them the opportunity for redress of grievance on whatever side you're on. So thank you for being here. I'm honored to have every single one of you here, no matter what your perspective. And with that, we are going to get started. First up is Charles Fairley? Farley. Yes, sir. And to go over quick ground rules, you have 2 minutes. There's a clock up here where you can see your time. They're a little aggressive, just to be fair to everyone, at the end of time, so please watch that clock. I won't stop you, but somebody will. I see her right there.
Be aggressive?
I'll watch my back. Do I address you or address the audience, or who do I address?
Address the board.
Okay, great. I wonder why we're here. My wife always says, you know, I wonder about that. And I wonder about why are we here? You know, how many trans people are there in the state of Alabama that we're worried about? You know, not more than 20,000 according to the World Population Press. Less than 0.5% are trans people. But we seem to be a lot of worry about it. We're taking our time here. All these people came, all this business and everything. What's this all about? Are we worried? Are we afraid? Is there a horde of trans people coming up the Alabama River to take over? I know there's a policeman outside, so, you know, maybe they're protecting us. I don't know. Makes you wonder, though. Makes you wonder. You know, for a state that values state freedom and a separation from the federal government, it seems strange to me that a state agency is trying to dictate to local libraries what they want to do, what they want to put on their shelves, how they want to serve the people. It seems strange to me. It makes you wonder, you know, why does this board know more than the local librarian who meets every day with the people they serve? You talk about serving parents. If we take away the parents' right to introduce transgender information to their children, then we're not doing what you suggest that we do. So, no, it makes you wonder. As my wife says, it makes you wonder. You know, and then you sort of wonder, you know, about
Belcher?
Good afternoon, and thank you for giving me a few moments to speak. My name's Amanda Melcher, and I'm a librarian and past president of the Alabama Library Association. And I want to share with you the true costs of the unnecessary and unwanted APLS code changes. A recent survey of Alabama public library directors revealed that a sample of libraries have spent $329,600 on staffing, cataloging supplies, legal consultation, among other things, just to comply with these changes. On average, each individual library has spent almost $11,000. Compliance has required over 6,421 staffing hours. This money and time is not going toward buying books, programming, technology for our communities. It's being wasted on red tape. But parents don't even want these changes. In fact, the survey shows that the overwhelming majority trust libraries and librarians, with more than 80% choosing all access cards for their children. Of the book challenges across the state, over 57% were done by a single individual, with an average of only 2 folks challenging at any given library. That's no mandate. Libraries are one of the oldest and most trusted institutions in the world, and one of the few that provide their services free of charge. We already stretch every dollar to extraordinary lengths. These code changes will force libraries to cut back on the very programs that Alabama libraries love and depend on. According to your own site, the ultimate goal of APLS is to create a statewide network of libraries to provide outstanding service to every individual in the state. Every individual, not just those we share political or ideological viewpoints with. Each child deserves the chance to see themselves in a book. The proposed change strips away parents' rights to decide what is best for their children. Absolutely will. Thank you.
All right, next up is Samantha Webb.
Hi,
Thank
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Samantha Webb, and I live in Monticello. And I want to urge the board to oppose the proposed change to the administrative code that would ban positive depictions of transgender people, so-called gender procedures, and so-called gender ideology. When you designate a single topic as inappropriate and then exclude youth from accessing it, in this case transgender people, you are canceling the rights of some parents and some youth. When you wall off material portraying transgender people positively, as the proposed change does, you are excluding an entire group of people from the public. You are canceling them. Let's have some assumptions that we all agree on. Chairman Wall came up with 2, I have 5. 1, libraries serve and reflect the local communities in which they operate. 2, libraries offer families a safe and welcoming place where they can access wide, professionally curated materials that are relevant to their needs, interests, and tastes. 3, library patrons can choose to read or not read any book in the library. 4, parents have a right and responsibility to decide what their own children read, not the government, not other parents, and certainly not Clean Up Alabama or Moms for Liberty. And 5, the First Amendment protects not just speech, but access to speech. The proposed change eliminates the First Amendment freedoms for all of us because it cancels the freedoms of some of us. The proposed change is a slippery slope. It restricts books related to transgender people. And if you do that, you are creating disfavored topics beyond just obscene and sexually explicit material. Where does it end? This is government overreach. It is government censorship, and it is the definition of cancel culture. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, up next is Elizabeth Varsa.
Good afternoon. I'm a retired librarian and library educator, and I've been interested in intellectual freedom and the right to read for over 60 years. As a charter member of the Freedom to Read Foundation, I take access to information extraordinarily seriously. I'm going to make 3 points quickly. The fundamental mission of librarians is to ensure access to information for all. Thus, we believe that honest, accurate, timely, and reliable information, let's call that legitimate information, should be available and accessible to everyone, including minors. Second, we believe that information on controversial topics, religion, politics, reproductive rights, LGBTQ issues, and other issues that are or may be uncomfortable all belong in libraries. Why? Because librarians are unique in their education and experience in discerning which information sources are legitimate. One of the librarian's roles is to build library collections that represent all sides of the issues, provide diverse points of view, and meet the criteria for what I'm calling legitimacy. Third, I want to address the issue of children. Regarding protecting our children, the other source of information accessible to everyone, as you know, is the internet. Age appropriateness is not a part of the social media algorithm. Parental controls on social media, denying children cell phones will not keep them away from the information that's out there. They have friends with phones, and the friends will share. Finally, teaching children how to identify legitimate information is a job for both teachers, librarians, and also for parents. This should be done at the local level, but there must be balanced collections to support educating.
Is Angie Hayden?
Good afternoon. I wanted to start with saying the Fairhope Public Library has done everything that has been asked of them, short of allowing this board to dictate the placement of every book that Moms for Liberty disagrees with. Book placement has never been within the purview of this board. It was not intended to be, nor should it be. The role of this board has shifted dramatically, though, under its current leadership, And although a lot of lip service is given to local control, I see the exact opposite. And as for the amendment, I'm not the only one to notice that it forbids positive depictions of trans people, but not negative depictions. It also did not go unnoticed that the books with trans characters which are written for minors will now be forbidden from being purchased, as the existing code prevents the purchase of acquiring any material advertised for consumers under the age of 18 which contain material deemed inappropriate for children or youth. Let's consider what labeling books about transgender topics as inappropriate for children or youth would mean in practice. It would mean that libraries cannot purchase them, even to shelve in the adult section. These purchases would be banned completely, so much for move, not remove, and so much for local control. Since it will be forbidden to purchase them, this means that parents who give full permission for their child to check out these books are having that option stripped by this board. This board has gone ahead of them and forbidden the book's purchase completely. So much for parental rights. It also means that since popular young adult novels are books that many adults read, those books will be forbidden for libraries to purchase and shelve in the adult section, meaning that this board now seeks to limit what even adults can access in their own libraries. So much for this being about protecting children rather than ideological control. The board is unconcerned with parents' rights. They're unconcerned with rights aside from their own to tell you what is and is not right for your family. They are usurping control that parents have already always had. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, up next is Alex Kenyong.
Hello. So I'm not surprised Charlie Kirk came up, but I want to say that one of the things that we haven't talked about in regards to that is the 3,000 young people who bore witness, as well as the school shooting that also happened that same day. There's a lot of talk about protecting children. And I think when we talk about, right, unity and things, the one thing that we do all agree on is that we want what's best for our kids. Like that's not up for debate. What is up for debate is what that means. Do we treat our children like our cars and our lawnmowers and our property and shut them up in a shed and let them figure it all out when they're older, when now they have the opportunity to learn new things? Now they have the opportunity to engage in this debate. Now they should have the same rights to engage with this information as anybody else. And we need to have faith that our kids are smart enough and we love our kids enough to have those conversations with them. Children are not property. Withholding information from them is only going to make things worse for them in the long run. I also have concerns too about the slippery slope that's come up several times, right? Which we started with the first admin code last year. We knew that banning explicit material meant eventually we were going to come for trans people. And then once we come for the trans people, who's next? Basically, we're using this executive order that's not enforceable for this trans removal. There's already a law in the books that bans DEIA. And I mean, not to be calling myself an oracle or anything, but it seems like a pretty straightforward shot there to go, okay, we've gotten rid of the trans people. Our state legislature also says we can't have anything about critical race theory or whatever. DEIA also includes disabled folks. Do we get rid of all that information? So I just want, let's be careful about the precedent we're setting here. Because if we're going to use the cherry pick what we're using, we're setting ourselves up to ban a whole lot of stuff we don't actually need to ban. Also, thank you, Ron.
Lindsay Gardner.
Good afternoon. My name is Lindsay Gardner. I am currently the president of the Public Library Directors Association of Alabama. Today, I'd like to talk to you about library funding. There are 226 libraries in Alabama. Of those, 150 libraries have budgets of less than $300,000. The average legal service area of these libraries is about 8,200 people. The average small library in Alabama has a total staff of 1.8 full-time equivalents, yet small libraries are open an average of 35 hours per week. These libraries have an average collection of 20,000 items. That's 2.5 books per person in their legal service area. Interlibrary loan is a powerful tool for these libraries, which borrowed a total of 33,000 items in 2023. The infrastructure for ILL is funded through LSTA. These libraries provided on average 4,400 computer sessions and 75 programs with an average yearly attendance of 1,600 people. And they do this on a shoestring budget. For 70% of these libraries, state aid makes up less than 30% of their budgets because state aid funding is per capita, and these libraries are not in high population areas. But 44 of these libraries reported federal funding. And even though I couldn't determine the exact source, it seemed like most of these libraries must have received LSTA grants. I also compared state funding for 10 southeastern states based on the 2023 Public Library Survey. In terms of total giving, Alabama ranked 6 of 10 at $6 million. Mississippi ranked 5 of 10 with $6.8 million. Looking at per capita giving, Alabama again ranked 6 of 10 with $1.19, and Mississippi ranked 3 with $2.32 per.
Thank you. Right. Up next is Carol Wilson.
Good afternoon. I am in support of the proposed rule change to the administrative code and ask respectfully that sexual orientation be added to the proposed rule change, and also the approved APLS definition of sexually explicit. Regrettably, I come to you today to share that the Federal Public Library remains in non-compliance with APLS rules and their own library policy. I suggest a continued pause in funding or termination must be kept in place until APLS compliance and their library policy is met. It is the duty and responsibility of a library professional, not citizens or citizen trustees, to achieve APLS compliance and compliance with library policy for the good of the Federal Library compliance, and in order to restore their funding. I ask the APLS Board to request of the Federal Library Director to review all past decisions of the Federal Public Citizen Trustees and their previous director. I will be submitting today evidence that underscores that the collection is not in compliance. The book Parts and Hearts by Hillenbrand promotes gender ideology to children 9 to 12 years of age. This book has been asked for reconsideration. It is a graphic and narrative book that depicts a child will have a joyful experience in the process to transgender. If you have had a mastectomy, such as I have, it is not a happy and joyful experience. It is common sense that parental guidance is needed when a child reads this book. It remains in the children's section of the library. Additionally, after citizen reconsideration, the library director did move a book on September 8th. I will be filing this comment and my additional paperwork with the.
All right. Up next is Ann Johnson.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ann Johnson, a member of the Board of Trustees of the Fairhope Public Library. And we hope that today APLS Board has had time to consider your position, pausing the funding to our library, and will fully reinstate state aid at the appropriate funding level. State resources should not be used to enforce ideological conformity. Public libraries are for the entire community. We aim to have a wide variety of materials for a wide variety of viewpoints. Intellectual freedom and freedom of speech are bedrock American values that public libraries strive to uphold. We have, in good faith, followed the guidelines laid out in the administrative code. We have listened to our community, the majority of whom do not want state interference in the running of our library or decisions about our collections, nor do they want one group of people dictating what information and resources others have access to. While some people may think censoring certain materials for young people is a way of protecting them, it is not. It is simply making information inaccessible. That is a form of censorship. This silencing may be keeping a cautionary tale from a young person right at the time when they need it the most. Or it may let a lonely child know that they are not alone if they are feeling different. I urge you, the APLS board, to restore our funding and engage in a fair review process that upholds due process, transparency, and equity in enforcement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Up next is Catherine Hastings.
I'm going to waive my right to speak, because I feel.
Thank you. Up next then is Tony Keener.
Oh, good afternoon. My name's Tony Keener. The Mobile Public Library Service has presented itself to be in compliance with federal law as well as APLS guidelines. This is a blatant misrepresentation of the truth. After several hours of research from September 1st through September 7th of the library catalog and my local branch, I was able to compile a list of 154 books in violation, some of which were published after the guidelines were put in place. The Mobile Public Library Service adopted a policy which limits the ability of citizens to challenge the questionable books to 3 in a 12-month period, while also preventing any other citizen from challenging the same book for 3 years. These policies silence the concerns and prevent oversight by the public. Therefore, although incomplete, I have brought this list to you, along with photocopies from books 2, 3, and 62. This is book 2. Challenge forms have been written for each of the 154 books, and I am in the process of enlisting several individuals to assist with these challenges, since I'm unable to spend 51.3 years for me to recognize and challenge each of these books. On September 24th, I will deliver the same list and photocopies along with the completed challenges to the Mobile Public Library Service Board. I request that this board change the Mobile Public Library's status to non-compliant.
Before you sit down, just a quick question. Have you reached out to your local, to the Mobile?
They meet next week on the 24th. That's when I'll be taking all this information to them. I was told that they were maintaining compliance for the last 2 months and was told that they would be submitting that they were in compliant.
I'm glad to hear you're going to speak to your local board. That is my first, anyone who has a complaint, like, we always want to see it worked out locally if all possible. So.
I did bring this to the attention of the director. She told me that I was mistaken, that they were in compliance. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, up next, Linda Perot. Did I get your last name right?
Either way, Peru, whatever.
I appreciate people who are easy on me with pronunciation.
It's okay. I'm Linda Peru. I'm from Mobile, and I'm with Eagle Forum. And I want us to take a moment and step back and think about when we were a child and our innocence that we had as a child. And that, to me, there's nothing more important than protecting that innocence of a child. Me, I lost that innocence between the age of 6 and 7 because of being introduced to pornography. Okay? And it's upsetting to me, but thank God, thank you, Jesus, that he saved me and he has restored my life. The first book in Mobile is Introducing Teddy. I found this book about a month ago, and this is still in the preschooler books. And this is about a little teddy bear that decides he wants to be a girl, a boy teddy bear that wants to be a girl. And I really don't want my grandchildren reading this. And the next one is Julian is a Mermaid, also in the children's section, which is the preschool section. It's easy read. And it's about a little boy that decides he wants to become a mermaid. And it shows him undressing his clothes in the book to dress up as a mermaid. And the grandmother promotes it. So to me, there's nothing more important than the innocence of a child. And God's word says that, but whosoever shall offend one of these little ones, which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone hanged about his neck and that he be drowned in the depth of the sea. But there is redemption for all of us through Jesus Christ. And if you haven't asked Jesus into your heart, it's very easy. You just ask him to come in and profess who he is, that he is God, and he will save you. So I agree with your board, with the board here on changing the books.
Thank you. Up next is Rebecca Watson.
You want to just wait for that? I'll take it and then I'll pass it out. What's this? Well, it's just in one stack.
I've always said that the board reads everything we get. This is going to put the desk.
That's 721 signatures in support of changing the Alabama code. I'm here today to discuss the Fairhope Public Library. I have gone through their catalog. I do not believe that they are in compliance. Each of you have a packet. I have gone through the original form that I provided to all of you, which listed out all of the books that the Fairhope Library had provided to me, which I shared with you, that had been requested to be reconsidered. You will see on that list every book that was relocated, which there are several books that have been relocated, and there are about 20 that have not been. I do not believe they are in compliance. I believe that they are finished with their entire inventory of those books. And I have also asked the library director if they have cataloged, weeded any of their collection, looked through all of their books, and it doesn't appear that they have. So they are relying on constituents or people like me to go in and tell them what to move, and then we again get vilified for doing that, and we are not interested in that. As far as the policies goes, they are supposed to go through their collection, and they are supposed to remove any books that are in violation, and they have not done that. And personally, I am sick and tired of coming up here and dealing with a library that is blatantly disrespecting the people that go to the library and use the library. The parents do not want this material in front of their children. This is a parental rights issue, and we want parents to have the right to give their kids an all-access card to give them access to the material. And if they don't want to give the all-access card, we shouldn't have to thumb through all the books in our children's section to make sure that they're not exposed to this material. So we don't agree with it, and we don't want it. And I request their funding to be.
Up next is Lee Nagara Oach.
What? Is it L-I-N-H?
Yes. Did I butcher that one bad? I'm sorry.
And then, good morning. Thank you so much for taking the time to let me speak. So Isaiah state in chapter 1:118, "Come now, let us reason, said the Lord. What is true? True is that what conform to facts or reality. Truth does not determine personal feeling, popular vote, or scientific opinion, or any human court of appeal. Truth is simply what it is, and is anchored in the God who created and sustained the universe." John 14:6. The Lord say, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." Yet a fool say, "There's no God." He did not know that he was quoting scripture without realizing it.
In the word mathematics, 2 and 2 is always going to be 4. Mathematics is a universal language. It doesn't matter what country you're from. Mathematics remain the truth. Mathematical truth refer to statement or proposition in mathematics that are universally accepted as truth. These books are full of propaganda that is not true. They are a form of communication used to influence the attitude, belief, and behavior of target audience, including our young, innocent children. As a Christian, I am here to stand for truth and freedom for our children to learn truthful principle. I am against these LGBTQ+ books. If you love your children, if you love these children, you will give them truth. Satan is the author of lies, and God is the author of truth. So I urge the board here to stand with me on these subject matter. And these books, I have page 46, 55, page 60.
All right, up next is Elizabeth Williams.
Good afternoon. I'm here as a mother, a trained librarian, a 7th-generation Alabamian, and a proud resident of Fairhope, Alabama, which is home to one of the best libraries in the state. I have with me a book I checked out from that library. It's a picture book by Maurice Sendak, and it's been in the children's collection longer than I've been alive. But per guidance from this board, it would have to be moved to the adult section, along with the Diary of Anne Frank, To Kill a Mockingbird, and hundreds, possibly thousands of other age-appropriate books at great taxpayer expense. Luckily, every legal expert we've consulted says that memo y'all sent out in May is non-binding, so our board has been free to focus only on actual law and actual policy when they went back and reevaluated 14 appealed books that you asked them to evaluate. They moved some and they kept others right where they were in the teen section. Again, not the children's section, the teen section. That is the way the reconsideration process is supposed to work. That is what good local governance looks like. Thoughtful reviews, not blanket mandates, are the way forward. Did I agree with all their decisions? No, I did not, but I respect those decisions because they were made following established procedures and evaluating the materials as a whole using the Miller for Minors test that's prescribed by law. That test is there as a guardrail to ensure the government doesn't go around censoring constitutionally protected speech. And when you discard it, you discard the First Amendment. The Fairhope Public Library is fully compliant with APLS rules as written and as formally adopted by this body. Our library has done all that you asked them within the bounds of the law, the Constitution, and the policies that this agency approved. Now it's time for this board to hold up its end of the bargain, respect local governance, and restore Fairhope's funding now. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is James Gilbreth.
Thank you for giving me time to speak today. So my name is James Gilbreth, and while I'm a lifelong citizen of the state of Alabama, I also had the honor of being the current president of the Alabama Library Association. The association recently conducted a survey of public library directors in Alabama, as previously mentioned by my colleague Amanda, regarding matters related to intellectual freedom. Libraries that responded spent over $300,000 in time, that is salary, supplies, and so on implementing changes that were required by APLS just last year. And this is time and supplies that are being spent to satisfy code changes rather than serving the needs of their local users. Additionally, 71% of responding library directors indicated that there hadn't been a book challenge at their library. I strongly urge the board not to move forward with further requirements and code changes that restrict access to information and books, thus putting further financial burden on library budgets. Furthermore, it's my understanding that certain groups, some of whom are represented by speakers today, are pushing for the removal of certain categories of books from our libraries altogether. I urge the board, in the strongest possible terms, not to mandate the removal of books from our libraries. It goes against the spirit of free inquiry and debate on which our society is founded. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Up next is Aaron D. Jagger.
Close enough. Hello, my name is Aaron DeJager, and I'm from Huntsville. I'm here today because I see a concerning trend in the way this board is making decisions. This board seems more interested in obstructing library operations than doing their job, which is encouraging them. The Huntsville-Madison library system had to spend $60,000 in countless man-hours to review their collection, with an end result of reducing their ability to serve the public during that time and into the future. That's money this board costs the citizens of Alabama for a lower level of service. There are similar stories across Alabama. Whose lap will you dump these problems in when you run for political office? Will you stand tall atop your tower of struggling small-town libraries made poorer and announce your shining success story? You say you are concerned for your constituents. The issue is you have no constituents. You are not occupying elected positions. This board is not an executive role. It is an administrative one. You don't have the mandate or, frankly, the manpower to administer every library in the state. The people who do, local city councils, already are running libraries the way their constituents think is best. Why were these concerns not brought to them? The answer, of course, is that it's a convenient political vehicle to ride to the top. There are already systems in place to run libraries. The local authorities have the authority and mandate to run their libraries, not you. Please stop backseat directing and obstructing the very libraries you are supposed to support. Additionally, since you asked for us to open for prayer, I have a scripture for you. This is Matthew 6:5. When you pray, you are not to be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and on the street corners so that they may be seen by men. Truly, I say to you, they have their reward in full. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Amanda Fry.
Amber.
I'm sorry, Amber Fry.
Remember at the beginning of all this, when they said they don't want to remove books, they just want them removed from the reach of children. And then it was, they don't want to remove books, they just want them put in the adult section. Well, look where we're at now. The goalpost has again moved. Now they want these books out of the library. Books about people, human beings. I shouldn't have to be here standing in front of you and demanding the constitutional rights of every citizen to be respected by publicly funded institutions. You should want to follow the Constitution. Instead, I hear y'all creating new meaning to the parts of the Constitution that you don't like in order to control the narrative. While there's not a specific law that says you have the right to have this specific book in the library, the First Amendment's protection of the right to receive information and ideas is a foundational legal principle. The act of removing books that represent an entire demographic is widely considered a violation of this principle because it is a form of viewpoint discrimination and censorship. You claim that you're protecting kids. Let's be real. You're doing the exact opposite. By taking these books away, we're telling that child that they are not just unseen, but that they're bad, that they're wrong for who they are. What could be more damaging to a child than that? This has never been about protecting kids. It's always been about censorship. It's always been about an agenda. The Alabama Public Library Service Board is trying to pass these discriminatory code changes, and they're pretending to listen to parents, but which parents are they listening to? They aren't listening to the parents like me. Sorry, excuse me. We demand an end to this censorship and return to the
Is Amber Ward.
Am I close enough? Okay.
Hopefully.
Okay. My name's Amber Ward. I'm from Mobile, Alabama. I'm a Christian. I don't agree with the LGBTQ, trans, and all lifestyle. However, it's not my place to silence other people's beliefs and differences. What I mainly want to talk about is the parts of the code that are already in place that are not being enforced. You're basically going off of what these people are telling you that they're doing and not actually proving that they're doing it. According to everyone has their First Amendment rights according to the Constitution. But under Title 18 of the U.S. Code, the Supreme Court of the United States has long held that obscenity is an exception to speech protected under the First Amendment. Things that are sexually explicit, nudity, sexual acts and talks of that, no matter sexual orientation, are obscene, especially to minors. The things that are in these books, if they were distributed by individuals, those individuals would be arrested. So these restrictions, just because it's okay right now for them to be in place, doesn't mean it's right. The library is a public service that is free to the public, but that doesn't mean that they're obligated to cater to everybody. So decisions, however y'all want to decide, is up to you, but if you're not maintaining what's already in place, then what's another stipulation? Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, up next is Dallas Bailio.
You almost got it.
You would think I would too, because what is this, your third, fourth time?
Yeah, I'm up here all the time.
You know, next time I'm just going to say Dallas.
Y'all will be tired of me, won't you? I guess. I mean, maybe you're already tired of me. Let's see, have we started the clock? Okay, here we go. I want to make a comment first about, there was a lady that came up and was talking about the Mobile Public Library. Mobile Public Library has a policy in place to review books that are challenged. And it goes through a process, and sometimes the person who challenges it isn't happy with the results. And that can always happen. Now, the next thing, because we had this, our meeting was opened with a prayer, but I really wanted to open it with some humor. Y'all ready? Okay. I was in a restaurant and I was looking at the menu and they had smothered chicken. I just thought that was a horrible way to kill a chicken. Just not a big laugh, right? But they also had baked Alaska, and I couldn't understand why global warming was on the menu. All right. So I'm looking over Mr. Snyder. I don't know if he laughed or not. Okay, but my time is running out. I'd like for you board members to tell me why you are so opposed to transgender people. I really would like to know it. I've never really understood it, and that's very truthful. So transgender citizens, you know, I respect them. So I'm going to spend the last part of this in quiet, and maybe y'all want to speak.
Look, I'll take that. I'll take the 24 seconds left and address it further at the end if you want. I mean, I think this is exactly the type of situation where we have the misinformation that causes the division. I actually love every single person on the face of this planet. And ironically, even my enemies, I would be commanded as a man of faith, as a Christian, to love. So I love people, and I love people that are different. And I think we need to end that stereotype, because just because we're talking about what you put in the children's section doesn't mean you don't care about people and love them.
Well, since you took part of my time, just a couple. Okay.
All
right.
Unfortunately, it was offered, and there was no stipulation of getting more. So.
But I would like, when you do have your hearing about
And with that, we only have one more. Carolyn Day. Oh, we may be done. All right. Well, that concludes our public comments. I do want to thank you all once again for being here. I know that you all have busy schedules, and I appreciate that. I will, before we're going to take a recess shortly, and then take up the business of the board in the boardroom. Before we go, I just want to once again thank you, but also I find it really important, you know, especially just with the things going on in our country, with the division, with the death of Charlie Kirk. And look, that hit home to me on two reasons. I know some people didn't like that I brought that up, but it hit home to me for two reasons. One, I knew him personally. The last time I talked to him, He talked about, not about political stuff, not about anything to do with what would be divisive. He talked about his children. And I don't think you're ever going to find a man who is prouder of his kids than Charlie Kirk. He was absolutely infatuated with them. He loved them. He loved his wife. And when I think of him, I think of a human being who his kids are never going to have the chance to know him. And we cannot let political differences or negativity or differences of opinion get to the point where we let it go to hatred or we let it go to violence. So I want to encourage you on a few things here. One, I really do, as I heard the conversation, I think it goes back to my original thought. We have so much more in common than we may want to talk about. I heard all about, parental rights, wanting parents to decide. That has been this board's commitment in every single act we've taken, in every single statement we put out, where we talk about wanting to, we're not talking about moving the books completely out of the libraries. We're talking about respecting people on both sides of the issue and saying we want everyone to feel welcome in Alabama libraries. Every single family.
I would like to make a comment on Charlie Kirk as well, because I feel like people like me are being vilified.
That was not aimed at anyone.
I see him as a human too. I think everybody in this room can agree that was tragic and horrible.
Yeah, and thank you. And look, I hope and pray that everyone in the entire country, it's sad that anyone is, and I know we're all shocked by some of the reports of the people who are celebrating it. It's horrible. But going back to this, we really do have more in common, because if this board's priorities is putting parents in control and wanting to have people on both sides of this debate feel welcome in Alabama libraries, that should be something we can all champion, we can all get behind. We're talking about allowing parents to decide. And that should be the heart. It's also not, and I'm sorry, but I can't be fair if I give you more time and not others. At the end of the day, if the goal is parental decision-making, that's what I want to try to find the path where we can agree as much as possible. It is not censorship if you don't remove the books, right?
Yes,
and it is not banning any material. If people still have access to it, I would never support. I feel strongly that I speak for the entire board when I say this. I would never support using the power of government to ban a book.
You are talking out of both sides of your mouth.
To prevent something from being printed or being purchased, would never. That would be.
But you're banning it from the library. Forbidding the purchase of it in the library.
Look, the goal is that people feel welcome in Alabama library.
Unless they are trained.
I think we're off the rails.
Okay. Yeah. Well, look, I want everyone to know that I do respect your opinion. I respect that you're here. An open dialogue is the best case scenario for working through this. I appreciate every single one of you. And I look forward to hearing, I'm sure most of you will be putting in public comment. I look forward to seeing that for the public comment period coming up, and thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
Everyone, y'all can remain in here to watch.
I was glad it was brought up I would encourage the board members to look at it, because it's fascinating information, the support of our local libraries and where we rank compared to the surrounding states. Also the focus, she was mentioning that LPS grants, which I think is a tremendous program. I'm glad we were able to return that to local libraries this time. And I know that's important to you as well. And, keep me in the loop as we move forward on what the best practices are to, make sure we're able to get that back out to the libraries. And if we try to maybe increase the funding, if we're going to get the same amount from the feds, since the state was willing to cover any losses in the Fed, if we can keep the same in Fed, maybe we could talk to the state and even some of that guaranteed, as well as making up for any shortfall.
I'm sorry, before you go on, I had forgotten they had asked that we do a sound check in the other room. I don't know.
I've got my phone.
Yeah,
So they're going to text me if there's a problem.
Okay.
Perfect.
I've got Clyde. Okay.
Excellent. All right. So, no, thank you all for being here. Like I said, Chairman's report, I think that's the main thing I was going to highlight is, anything I can do, as you're thinking about what's coming up for libraries, like if there's anything outside the the board's capacity here, that as chairman, that I can be doing to help, let me know. Well, you know, we didn't even have to do the amend the agenda because recommendation of officers for the fiscal year 2026 is on the agenda. You did have it. I overlooked. I was looking in old business, but that would be the next item of business, and I would recognize Debbie for a report on that committee.
Yes. As a subcommittee member, I would like to make a motion that we keep the same officers we have in place. John Wall remaining as chairman and Juria Martin remain as vice chairman.
Let's, is that, I think we would do them independently, do one at a time. Would you like to make a motion on?
I make a motion that John Wall be chairman.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. And you correct me, should I even be running this?
You can, but
Debbie, why don't you run it with the help of me?
There's been a motion that John Wall continue as
And I'll second it.
chairman in a second.
So all in favor?
Well, is there any discussion?
Oh.
Ben's gonna run.
Are there any other nominees?
Oh, you run it.
Not hearing any. Is all in favor? All opposed? Congratulations, John.
I believe condolences are the right words. All right, thank you. And then I will, as newly elected chairman, I will just thank the board for your service. Look, guys, I know this is not always easy, and I know it comes with trauma, and I want to thank you for putting the time in. And I really hope that, you know, every one of us have the same heart of helping libraries and loving our communities and helping libraries be better. So I just appreciate serving all of you, and I want to thank you for your vote of confidence and support. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to elections for vice chair. I would, Debbie, once again, for a report from the nomination committee on vice chair.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that Juria Martin will become vice chair.
Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Second, is there any discussion? Any discussion? Are there any other nominees? There are no other nominees. We'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, and condolences are in order. Would you like to say anything to the board?
Just thank you. It's been a pleasure serving with you, and I hope that each of you know that I do love and respect you and appreciate just our partnership.
Thank you so much. All right, so that brings us to item in unfinished business, which is the Fairhope Public Library compliance, non-compliance with administrative state code. We have had a request from Fairhope to petition the board for return of the funding, and they are here with us today, and would love to hear from you all, hear what you've done, and then move forward from there.
We stand here, let's stand over here, Bob. I can do this without my canes. Thank you. All right, good afternoon. I want to thank each of you, your time and for listening to our perspectives on the pause in state funding to the Fairhope Public Library. We care deeply about our library and the resources it provides to the young people in our community. Our library is a vital part of the Fairhope community, providing a welcome environment for people of all ages where they can engage in learning, sharing, discussing, and even quietly reading a book. We believe that a library provides equitable access to information and ideas for all members of its community. It is a place for exploration, inquiry, and discovery, not a place to impose a single viewpoint. Our librarians are trained professionals who curate collections based on established policies, not personal tastes. On April the 1st, I received an email from Mr. Wall that said there were 3 key items that we needed to address for our funding to be reinstated. Those items were: 1, relocate sexually explicit material from youth sections to the adult section. 2, establish a clear process for parents in our community to request book reviews. And 3, to implement a library card system that gives parents the ability to decide which books their children can have access to. At that time, we believed we were in compliance with all three of these requirements. However, Mr. Wall listed 8 books that a small group of Fairhope parents had complained about. He wanted us to review those books. It was easy for us to comply with this request because we already had several books on appeal. Our 5 Board of Trustees members were randomly assigned books to read from the list of 14 books. Each trustee read 5 to 6 books, and each book was read by 2 trustees. At the June meeting of the Fairhope Board of Trustees, we shared our opinions, asked questions, and discussed 13 of these books in question. In the end, we voted to move 4 of the books to the adult section that night. In the end, we also moved 7 books in total. In making these decisions, we gave a great deal of thought to adolescent development. Teen years are a time of exploring one's place in the world. Literature can be a mirror that will affirm their self-worth and show them they are not alone. It can also be a window into the lives of others, fostering empathy and understanding for diverse perspectives. Reading fiction is a safe, credible way for young people to explore difficult issues such as mental health, bullying, abuse, and grief. Teen books often tackle sensitive and complex topics, because these are the issues that young people face in their daily lives. Exposure to diverse stories builds empathy and helps young people understand how to navigate an intricate world. We believe that the safest way for a young person to encounter and process challenging subjects is within the context of a story, not being left to explore unmonitored and unsafe online sources. Today, I believe that you, the American Public Library Executive Board, will vote to reinstate the funding for the Fairhope Public Library. You are a nonpartisan board of directors, meaning you are a governing body whose members are not affiliated with or biased toward any political party. You do not sit at this table with a personal agenda based on the political ideologies of your political party. However, your recent decisions, words, and actions have indicated to the public that perhaps you do not come to APLS with a nonpartisan attitude. A nonpartisan board aims for deliberative and reasoned decision-making based on available evidence and actual facts. I believe that you will vote to support the Fairhope Public Library because we have accomplished the task you requested, and it will build trust in the public libraries you guide, defend, and sustain. Before we answer any of your questions, we would like to refer to the email I sent to executive board members on September the 9th. In that email, we requested answers to a few questions we had. 1, are there specific titles that you want moved before our funding can be reinstated? Most of these titles can be found on the shelves in the youth departments across the state. If there is a list of books that you require us to move to the adult section, let us know. And will that list be sent to all Alabama public libraries? And most importantly to us is an answer to the question, why was Fairhope singled out?
So I'll take your questions for the board, and if any of you would like to chime in, let me know. I'm going to work in backwards, I guess. Well, let me address the specific. I'll do them in order. Specific books first. So there are no specific books in that the board and state code have never do not wish to create a list of books. So a good governmental principle has always been, whether it's law, code, or other items, is to put in place a framework that works not just in the current time frame, but permanently. And obviously new books are being written, and there should be a framework that can dictate whether it's a currently written book or a future written book that accomplishes the goals of best serving the people of Alabama. That was the priority priority of a code change. So it's not about a specific book. It's not about that. It's about content. In the same way that movie ratings don't concentrate on a certain movie. They don't say, oh, these are the list of rated R movies. No, it's content that creates the rating. We look at the books the same way. The state code is very clear that it's the content that should be looked at, not a certain book or book title or author. There is no book that is inherently wrong just because of a title. It's about the content in the book and whether that is sexually explicit, contains obscenity, or inappropriate. Those are clear directives in the code, and I would direct you to that as far as looking at the material within the book. It's not a list of books; it's the content. As far as the second question was,
Why were we singled out?
why were you singled out? All right. So there was one in between. What was the?
No, it had to do with if there was a list, making
If there was
sure
a
that
list,
all
okay.
libraries got it.
As far as being singled out, right, and obviously all libraries were provided the text of the code change with direction on what that meant and similar to what you received in that what was expected of them to remove sexually explicit content from children's sections, create used cars, and the things that were in state code. Also sent to them was the definition of sexually explicit passed by this board. I know there's been some debate over, I heard period that they talk to lawyers and that's not, doesn't have standing in some way. Well, if it is the opinion of this board that will be making a decision on what books are, then it absolutely has standing. It may not be in state code, but that is the opinion of the current board. And so for that reason, I think they're missing the point. That was done as a courtesy to Alabama libraries to make sure they knew what material they should be looking for when they're a definition, so they know what to be looking for when they're looking at the books on the state code. Would you agree with that, Ben?
Yes.
So it was never meant to be something that was in state code. It was always meant as a resource and a guide for local libraries because they were saying they didn't have that. And it was actually a request we received. Would you set a definition so we know what to look for in the books? As they pointed out, there's 71 libraries across the state that have not had a single request for reconsideration of a book. And I talk about this a lot. I think the vast majority of Alabama libraries do not contain material that some parents find inappropriate. I think this is not a systemic problem. As far as why Fairhope was started out, we've actually have had that conversation. I don't know if you remember, but when I initially called you after the board's vote to talk to you about it, I said what I feel put this board over the edge. And I've not spoken with every member about it, but I know for me, what really triggered my interest and concern was when parents stood here. And I said the same thing I always say to parents. Have you gone to your local board? Because that's the first place I always send us. And they were like, yes, we've gone multiple times and the board is refusing to do it, reconsider the books. When you refuse parents to redress the grievance, you left this board at the state level no choice that they get involved. So I think that's what made Fairhope different was the refusal of the redress of grievance parents. I'm just answering your questions openly and honestly. And now if Beth has any follow-up questions, we're glad to hear it. And I know I want to open up the board to have questions for you all as well.
I think for me, I reiterate everything that Randall said. I think that we've treated this process with respect and tried to listen and engage with this process faithfully. If there's not a list of books that is holding up our funding, how do we know what to do to become compliant? In the May 8th meeting, I was reviewing the meeting minutes, and you reiterated a couple times that you made a distinction between a challenged book and a book that isn't in compliance with the administrative code. So just because someone brings something forward for review, and if we disagree, that doesn't necessarily mean that we made an incorrect decision.
Oh, absolutely, that's absolutely correct. And look, I'll highlight that several of the books that people brought in, and held up. I was like, that would not be the state code would not regulate those books right now, right? Like, so obviously there's a difference of opinion. And I think that's where you have to go back to the clear language in the state code, which obscenity has been defined. Most of the questions we received as board was on a definition of sexually explicit, which we then provided.
I would like to say that you were saying that we refuse to look at books. Needs to be understood that the books he's talking about were done prior to when the code was passed. There was a list of books that parents asked us to reconsider, not us, the board, but the library director, and we supported her decision. Then these parents came back to us after the code change, 6 months, a year later, and said, we want you to relook at these books. Well, our policy says that once a decision is made, it's in place for 5 years, and that's pretty much standard around with other libraries. So it wasn't so much that we were refusing, we were just saying that they've already been. So fill out an appeal and we'll do it again if you need to, because, we were willing to talk about it. But they didn't come to us and ask us to do that. They didn't come and sit down and talk about it. So
the board did eventually vote
Yes.
after our funding was paused to revisit all of those books that came.
Which I appreciate. I think you are absolutely, that was one of the things I requested, and I appreciate you doing it. Look, in the end, that should be all of our goal, right? We, as a government body, whether it's here at APLS or whether it's in Fairhope, the goal should be representing the people we serve. Look, these are taxpayer resources that are going into it. The taxpayer has a compelling interest, and they should have a chance to ask for redress or grievance when we're talking about their funds. And so I very much appreciate you guys opening that back up with me that reconsideration.
And I think as I've said on several occasions, this board has gone down that very slippery slope with respect to this. We all talk about how we support local decisions. Here we've had an instance where this library, made up of board members who are prominent members of one of the wealthiest and frankly most Republican cities in this state, who the city council election that just occurred, where one of the principal issues was the library. The overwhelming number of people re-elected, strong supporters of this library. So I think it is very troubling that we who espouse small government are sitting here saying that we're going to decide what is occurring, that these books are obscene. And what we're doing is we're listening to a small minority of people in Fairhope who are never going to be satisfied. I think one of the people said today they had a petition signed by 700 some odd people. That's less than 3% of the population. They vigorously, because I have a home summer, I followed what was happening. They vigorously opposed many of the council, and they were soundly defeated. So I think we need to restore the funding for the Fairhope Library. I think they've done what we expect a library board to do. They've gone beyond that in terms of the time they've spent looking at this. We ought to respect local decisions with respect to what they determine is in the best interest of their community. So,
I am a big supporter of local governance. As close as you can to the local, better, right? I do think we can't allow ourselves to go down the political route, though. Like, it doesn't matter whether they're Republican, it doesn't matter whether the Republican Party espouses local control. This is about compliance with state code. And that should be the only thing we look at when making this decision.
but I think they've made a decision to interpret that state code, and I think we ought to accept what their definition is. Otherwise, if we're going to get into the position of the 226 libraries in the state, when there are going to be minorities in all of these little towns, every town in this state, who are going to have some opposition Are we going to then sit as a state board hearing petition after petition? Because we heard today these people speaking about the Mobile. We're going to start getting more and more of that, of these radicalized opposition.
I will ask, because I think it's very important that we make a deliberate decision and that we take the time to do it right. And that we don't have a knee-jerk reaction. I was actually thinking about it this morning as I was preparing for the meeting about the smartest way to move forward. And I would ask you guys, I would love to, do you have a list of books that were asked for reconsideration? And you have then an outcome of what you decided to do with those books. I would love to get a copy of that we could send around to the board.
So, well, what are we then going to do? Are we going to? What are we going to do when we get there? Are we going to say, well, these that y'all didn't remove, that somebody complained about, we think your local board made the wrong decision? Is that what this board is going to get into the position of doing? So that's just we far beyond what we should be.
We have a situation where we have constituency citizens on both sides of the issue who are asking us to make a determination.
A very small minority, barely.
It is a small minority. It is, I cannot tell you the number of people who are supporting us compared to the number of people they have. Anyway.
I don't want to get into whether it's numbers, because I've always been a strong proponent of it doesn't matter. And that's what makes America great, is that we listen to even the smallest minority, and even the smallest minority has rights.
Well, I think one of our problems is that we define sexually explicit differently. Even though that definition is there, it is subjective. It is, and you cannot objectify it. You cannot make it just a list of words or a list of ideas. What my background, culture, experiences are determines how I feel about that term. And yours could be entirely different than mine. So I just don't think that you can define it with just words. And the definition that you gave us was really for conduct, not content. I have not yet really seen anything about content, obscenity, and inappropriate for minors. Basically, it's the conduct to protect children from child pornography.
Let me be very clear on that. The vast majority of legislation on the federal level and state levels across the entire country define things like this with words. It's why we have definitions, why they exist. And this board, to be clear, absolutely has the right and the authority to make that definition. And you can define it differently, but I don't know if you were attempting to admit that you intentionally ignored the definition.
No, not at all. But community standards is part of your definition, and our community supports what we're doing. That's what they wanted us to do. Part of your definition is the word purient. That means to sexually arouse someone. None of these books do that. They might have a paragraph that you find offensive, but it's not sexually explicit. It doesn't arouse.
And can I? Yes, I would love to hear your thoughts. I will say, so I struggle with this because I actually talked with the author of the books, Soul. I had a tremendous, feel free to sit down. I did.
Thank you.
I had a tremendous conversation with her, and I very much enjoyed hearing her perspective, where the book came out from her life experiences and what she was trying to accomplish. Like, we actually had a very cordial, very good conversation. And we actually came to a very agreeable end because of what we were talking about. And she agreed. She was like, there are going to be some children who are helped. Her hope. And I told her I agree with her. The book has some very good literary things. And I don't even know that the book sold would fall outside of. I don't even want to make that. I'm not trying to make that judgment, even in my opinion. Like, I struggle with that book. Like, I am on the fence. But I do understand that similar books that may be profitable for some children and they may need it could also not be healthy for children who may not be struggling, may not have ever faced some of the things in the book, and at a young age to be exposed to abuse, sexual abuse, is not necessarily the best thing for them. And I think there's only one group that can properly decide that for those children, and that is not bureaucrats. It's not me, it's not you. It's the parents. And I think that's what we're trying to say. We're not saying these books don't necessarily have literary value. We're not trying to say there's not a difference of opinion on what sexually explicit is. We're trying to say those decisions should be left to parents to decide. And if it's a book that contains sexually explicit content as defined in the definition created by this board, we want parents to make that call. We're not saying the book is bad. We're not saying that the book doesn't have literary value, but we are saying that we want parents to make those decisions when it comes to material that is challenging to human existence. Sexuality is a complex issue, and different families are going to have different ways they want to address it for children, and we want to respect those families.
So what do? We got one person who complains about a book. They're supposed to remove the book. Because that one person.
If it goes against state code, they must.
The state code is so unclear what it is.
And I wanted to return to, you had asked us about a list that we could share with you. If we share that with this board, that would imply that you are in fact interested in individual titles.
We would be looking at the books, the content within those books.
Sure.
Right?
Is the board going to start looking at the content of books? Are we going to sit around and read books and decide what state library, what library?
I believe that is
That is not our
the duty of this
responsibility.
board.
It is
We're
not.
happy to be mediators between two different opinions.
We're becoming a board of censorship in that, if you go down that route. That is what we will become.
Getting information can never be censorship.
Oh, of course it is censorship. When this board is going to decide itself if a book in Fairhope or Birmingham or Ashland, Alabama we think it's obscene.
Well, deciding whether something is obscene is not censorship. Making the book illegal would be censorship.
When you're saying it has to be moved.
Well, when you move it from where the person it was written for, you can't find it, then it is a type of censorship.
Okay, so are R-rated movie censorship? Genuinely, I want your opinion.
I think
R-rated movie censorship.
In the past, that.
I mean, that's a yes or no question. That's a yes or no question.
I mean, I don't.
On record.
Know what the legal, I'm not a lawyer, but.
Well, no, that's censorship. Like R-rated movies, is that censorship?
I'm not sure what the definition of R-rated, who can go to an R-rated. I think a child can go with their parent.
Yes. A child can go with a parent, but they cannot go into the movie theater alone and watch that movie without a parent with them because we respect parental rights. But are R-rated movies, restriction on age on R-rated movies, is that censorship?
I think that's a false comparison.
I mean, it's been something that's been around for a long time.
That is a very fair question.
Yeah, but returning.
And you have to have an answer to that. Like, is it or is it not?
It's not to answer that.
Well.
I mean, you're putting it on the spot. That's not fair. It's a rating, not a.
But I guess you all have had information about our library for months, so I thought you were more familiar with some of the titles that we've had in our collection.
I would add to that as well, librarians, every time they look at a new book, decide censorship, because they decide either they're going to put it in their library or they're not. So a form of censorship occurs every day, or each library would have over 3 million books.
And I would make
none of this
level. None of this is censorship.
It is censorship.
So, because look, video game ratings have to be censorship. Is
What is a form of censorship?
not allowing children to smoke and drink. We have safeguards that protect young minds and young bodies. And we have always had that as a society. And I just believe that we have a duty as leaders to look at that and be honest about it. Like what we're saying is this is a standard. This is a societal standard that has been in place for thousands of years, across all cultures. Why can we say this board does not have a duty, not just a right, but a duty to protect young minds from content that their parents, at least some parents, would deem as inappropriate, and they would want to have input before the child was exposed to it?
And my goal is to understand the standard. That's why I'm asking about the books that you've withheld.
And that's why we passed the sexually explicit definition. But because we wanted to create clarity and we wanted to make sure you had that guidance. I'm like, that was the board's opinion on what reached the level that parents should have input.
And we've moved several books in an effort to comply with what we're talking about.
Again, it needs to be local decision.
And that's
We have
what
no business
yes.
going down this road.
We, at the local level, we have at Fairhope Public Library 6 people with master's degrees in library and information science. We have a 7th one working on her master's. If you can't trust those people to run our library, I don't understand.
The grand American experiment is that it's the people, not the
And that
bureaucrats.
we have, that people are running our library. And our parents can always come in and ask about a book. My child checked out this book and I'm just really concerned about it. Can I talk to you about it? That can be done anytime, anywhere, all the time. The people who are complaining about these books went to our city council, yelling and screaming. They did not come to our library director and say, we're concerned about these books. Okay, so anyway, our library has handled this beautifully, and I just, we've done what you've asked us to do, and we have moved the books that we felt were not appropriate for young teens. We would be happy to set up a shelf that says mature content, and it could only be, the books could only be checked out by a child with all access card, but it would stay in the teen section.
Do you believe that would comply with state law?
So,
Or state code?
do I believe that would? Yes, because you asked us to remove the books so that the children going through the shelf, oh, look at that book. When you look at how often these books were checked out, we might have had the book for 6 years and it's been checked out 3 times. So it's not like they're popular books coming off the shelf constantly.
My question would be, no library has 100% of all books that were ever printed. Of all books that were ever printed, right?
Right.
If you're saying these books are not popular in the community, then why are you upset about them being moved?
Well, they were due to be pulled, as a matter of fact, 4 of them because of this. But they got checked out and not returned for 3 months. So, the process is working, but
I'm frustrated because we live in a politically active area. I feel like we've been singled out, and I think some of them are honest parents, and some of them are not.
And that's going to be on both sides, right?
And I've identified dozens of the same titles around Alabama, so it doesn't seem like these rules are being applied equally.
Clearly, and I feel your frustration with that. And I would say a preparation for other libraries. I get phone calls all the time from concerned parents. I know in District 5, and I always send them to the local library board first. And I hope that those will be worked out where this board will not have to take up more. But I also think that there's a good chance, that consistency is coming. It may not be here yet. You may have been, the first who had, jumped through these hoops. And I'm sorry that you may have been targeted, right? At the same time, look, we have to accept that in our culture, there's going to be strong opinions on both sides. And that's something I can commiserate with you on. And it doesn't matter, like I said, both sides of this issue. There are some people who probably are not as respectful as they should be, who don't treat people with the dignity that they should. But we as governmental leaders have to go back to the basics, and we have to go back to the core principles. And I think for me, and I think I speak for by the actions of the board over time with the code change, it's going back to that the bottom line. It's going back to that fundamental principle that our society has upheld across all cultures for thousands of years, that we have a duty to make sure that we protect children from things that are explicit. And that we let the parents make the decision on what they're going to go to.
And I'll say, it's not just this board, because you think about, the board made a decision based on what the public comment was when we had the open public hearing the last time. So this was not just the board that made a random decision. You know, it was 6 hours of public comment, 5,000 letters. Overwhelmingly, they said, move the sexually explicit books. So we followed what the majority of Alabamians requested for funding. And that's what we're looking at, is funding based on tax dollars.
And the people who have, and look, I know, and I've not seen any polling for Fair Hope, so I want to be very respectful. I have seen polling statewide on this issue. And I'll tell you, the vast majority of Alabamians and Alabama parents are concerned about sexual explicitity in these decisions. And it does not, and that's not just Republicans, to those who want to try to make it politicized. This is not a Republican, it should not be a political decision. It should not be argued political. Parents of all social economic backgrounds and political backgrounds are concerned about this. And I think we have to respect that. We have to understand there's going to be people with strong feelings on both sides. And we have to navigate, how do we make Alabama libraries welcoming places for everyone?
And to go back to our ratings, that's been established by private industry. The movie industry self-regulates, so it's a little bit different than a government agency creating a labeling system for books.
I think it's all the more important, and respect to them, to the private industry supporting that. That's also a industry that's funded privately, where the people who are funding it are putting the regulations in place to protect that industry, to protect people involved in that industry. We as a government board then have that same responsibilities as leaders to protect our industry and our institutions, and our patrons, our customers, if you will, the people who use libraries, just as the private industry is protecting their customer base to the same place.
But why do we have a policy if we don't follow through with it, is my point. We do have a policy.
And I understand, I'm asking what books are holding this up.
We've done what you've asked.
Well, what you're asking is for this board to give you a list of books that are censored.
Right.
That's what we're asking this board.
I would push back just a little bit on that you've done. You made it very clear that you did not agree with the sexually explicit definitions we provided. You did not share it, and you did not make decisions based on it.
Well, we found the definition. We looked at community standards and do these books have prurient interest? So we did use your definition. The people that were reading them just have different views about what that means in terms of, was this book written to sexually arouse someone? No, none of them were. So, that was part of your definition. So
I think it's an important part. Look, we also, the code also exempted books on biology, the intent is not to remove.
And that's what we took into account as well, the exemptions.
Yes.
And then the biology, religion, history.
I think those are important, right? Because but at the same time, like I said, most of the books that I have struggled with the most, with my personal opinion, are books that contain good literature value, good literary value. It's just they bring up some very intense and very specific content that some parents will find concerning. They may want to talk with their child about it before the child reads it. And I think that is the fair request from those parents. I understand it. Some of it, I would want to talk to my child. I would not be opposed to my child reading it, but I would want to go over it with my child.
Absolutely.
All right, for the record, I would propose that Fairhope's funding be restored, given the efforts that they've made. Because I think if we're not going to gain support and do that, there needs to be a record that we decline to do.
Okay. And that is a motion. And if you've already heard my recommendation that we take the time to look at the list and look at the books. Is there a second for Ron Schneider's motion? All right. Hearing no second, it dies for a lack of a second.
Can we see the books or like y'all
Oh,
have
they-
the list?
We have a list, we don't have.
If you would not, this would be one thing, my recommendation to the board. Look, I want to do diligence, and I don't want to. There were requests that we immediately defund you forever today, right? And I don't look.
You can send, if you want to send something, you can send it to me and I'll make sure that it goes.
Everybody gets the board gets it. If you would not mind doing that, and then hopefully we would have the time to come back for the next board meeting.
And how are we going to look at that list? Are we?
Compare it to our definitions that we passed,
Oh, this is absurd.
but we passed them.
Absurdity that we're getting into this total censorship.
Well,
I think it's
before
very
I
much the
leave, I have a
majority.
few more things I'd like to say to y'all. I want to beg you to stop the harmful and discriminatory practice of censoring books available to teenagers in our community. This rise in book challenges for young adult literature represents a dangerous and misguided attempt to restrict access to information and ideas for a generation that needs it most. By removing books about LGBTQ topics, racial diversity, or complex social issues, you are doing more than just clearing shelves. You are silencing voices and sending a message that certain people and experiences are not worthy of being seen or understood. The argument that censorship protects young children from difficult topics is unfounded and condescending. Books are a safe space for teens to explore challenging issues. Avoiding these subjects in literature will not make them disappear in real life. Again, I will say censorship deprives young people of the tools and knowledge made to make sense of their world. A small group of parents or activists should not be allowed to dictate the reading material for an entire community. Parents have the right to guide their own child's reading, but they do not have the right to make decisions for everybody else's child. Restricting access to for all is a form of government censorship that undermines intellectual freedom and our community's commitment to the First Amendment. This board made their decision to pause funding for our library based on the stories told by just a few people who repeatedly attended your board meetings and read small passages from books designed to incite you. They spread disinformation about the Fairhope Public Library and had you thinking that our libraries were rude and uncooperative, and that our library was not safe for kids and teens. On top, let's see, you disregarded the procedures of due process in carrying out the action to defund us. Please respect our library and our board of trustees, because it is a blatant example of government overreach when you do not follow due process. Disinformation has been spread about the Fairhope Public Library and other libraries in the state. One of these intentional pieces of disinformation is that public libraries are not safe places for children. A second piece of disinformation that is continuously mentioned is that somehow just having these books on the shelves in the teen section will damage these young people. Do you know what really damages teens and children in our state? Guns, food insecurity, and the inability to read on grade level. It would seem that these issues are surely more damaging to a young person than a book on the shelf in a library. In Fairhope, the widespread opposition to the attempt to censor books demonstrates that the public has faith in the library staff and the Board of Trustees' decisions. At public meetings, the censorship advocates have loudly and rudely yelled groomer, pedophile, and pornographer to members of the audience. I would have to admit that our youth librarians could be called groomers because they are grooming our young people to love books and to find joy in reading. Their goal, to make lifelong readers and learners of the young people who visit our library. And as for the youth department at Fairhope Public Library, they have been awarded the best place for kids to have fun by Baldwin County residents for 2 years in a row. And this summer, the Fairhope Public Library's teen program attendance increased 150%.
I appreciate your comments. I do have a quick question regarding that. One of the things you read was that this board has restricted in some way racial content and LGBTQ content. I am only familiar with code change addressing sexually explicit and obscenity.
Are you moving in that direction?
That's not what your statement said, though. And I find that very upsetting, especially considering Sharia here, who we just elected for another term as vice chair. Look, I believe this entire board tries to come at this from a genuine perspective. It does not help to charge this with things that are not true. To try to paint this board as racist or
She didn't say this board.
I just said by removing books about LGBTQ topics, racial diversity, and complex social issues, you're doing more than just clearing shelves. And you're.
No, I've never seen any move from this board for support for moving racial material. Look, guys, it comes back to what I was talking about. This is a very simple concept. I think we've created so much division through false information and through negativity from both sides.
Yes.
I know, and I'm not going to defend. You talked about people who call people groomers, and look, I have had a death threat in my life over this issue. And I take that a little more seriously than I did 2 weeks ago. We have to stop the negativity, and we have to stop the lies, and we have to try to come together. And I'm genuine when I say I struggle with some of the books that I've looked into, like Soul, because I understand their literary value. But at the same time, I also recognize the thousands of years that this principle has been in place, that sexually explicit content is kept from children. That we let children be innocent. This is not new. This board is not somehow creating this. This is something that has been around since the beginning of time. Parents and adults have protected children from hard things. And hard things like rape, like incest, like some of the things that are addressed in these books. Yes, they need to be addressed by some people, for some people.
But you keep saying children, and we're talking about teens. There's a big difference between a child. When you say children, I think 8, 9-year-olds, which would be offensive to me if, to put these books in front of those children.
When does your
We're talking 13 to 18, and the books we moved, we felt were not appropriate for 13, 14-year-olds. So, we do see that there's some books that may not be appropriate for those children.
And I'm glad to hear, your commitment to fighting racism. There is a national sentiment to remove DEI materials. Would you commit to defending books that cover racial topics?
I think it's one of the reasons this board made an exemption for religion and history. I think it's incredibly important that we talk about in biology, right? But like the code that was passed is very clear in its target: sexually explicit and obscenity. And I stand on that. I think this board not only has a right, but we have a duty to continue this historical standard of protecting young people from it. Thank you all. We do still need a motion on this issue. I would ask for a motion to, as a racially office provided list of books, for us to review it, to have time to think about it as individuals. We'll provide that list, but it's time to think about it. Argues, and then we can reconvene on this at the next meeting. I would remind everybody of the open meetings requirements. Don't discuss it with each other. but I think it is very healthy to have the time to process correctly and to make instead of a knee-jerk reaction on either side, to give fair hope, the fair opportunity for us to do the due diligence on what they've done. And I would encourage you, if you have any, anything you want to send along with it. I think I speak for the board. I will read everything you send. So if you want to send anything along with the list explaining any of the decisions.
We brought a packet of letters from Fairhope residents that I left with Vincent today.
That'd be great. That's excellent as well. All right.
I'll make that motion.
All right, we have a motion to take this to research, take it up in the next. We have a second. Is there any discussion? All right, is there any objection?
I object. I think we're going down a road that is inappropriate.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Noted. Thank you all. We appreciate you being here. All right, so the next item on the agenda is new business, administrative code revision. John, do you want to speak to this? I know.
I can, sure. I did go through the process with the LSA to get the code revisions that you all had approved, filed with them. I did it correctly and got a validation, so I was happy about that. The deadline for written comments is October the 14th, I believe. And then the public hearing will be on the 21st. And we did that to give staff time to process and to give y'all, the chance to review all of this stuff. Because I want to say last time we did this, you were doing this like right at the last minute or the day before or something. So we wanted to give you extra time to do that. It also helps out Denise and Keith a lot too. So I did it that way. And so I believe the public hearing is on the 21st of October starting at 10 o'clock, and it's going to be here at APLS.
Lovely. I will look forward to seeing everyone there. Helen, on just a business note on that, just in case, I know we won't be voting on final things, but if we do have other potential votes for the board, could we make that an official board meeting as well? Just, with the
That might be a question for him.
recognition.
You can, as long as you advertise it.
As long as
We have to advertise it.
Okay.
And that's what I was gonna say. If you would advertise it, just in case we need to take any business at that meeting.
Okay.
We'll
Okay.
Advertise it and we'll have a.
Does that make sense?
It's gonna be a regular board meeting on the.
It won't be regular. We won't go through all the reports and stuff, but I wanted to be able to, board to be able to take action if needed. So we want to advertise it. So it isn't a,
It's a special call meeting.
it would be a special call meeting, yes.
Can we ensure we have access to meet virtually? Because I know for a fact I'll be out of town that day, but I may be able to hop on can't vote.
Which, and I hopefully there won't be any need for it. I just think it's always good to have, like, I can't think of anything right now we would need it for. I just think it's good to have, the ability, like with the boards together, rather than just wait for it. Yes.
Ben, are we prohibited from voting? I thought we were only prohibited in voting in personnel matters.
She can't, but when she's gonna vote, that's what I'm saying.
I'm talking about,
You can on certain
remote.
days.
Remote, I thought you could vote on anything other than personnel.
Well, it's personnel matters, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, code changes.
Oh, change.
Oh, yeah.
If you would let us know. 'Cause
Which I
know
don't
that
plan to
there's
vote on
some
the code
items
change.
you
I
can
can't
vote
imagine
on.
us needing to at that day.
Or any kind of disciplinary matter, which it doesn't come up here.
Right,
So
excellent.
if you'd let us know whether
Sure.
All right,
What time
excellent.
is-
So,
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Can
Yes.
you tell me what time the meeting is gonna start?
10 a.m.
10 o'clock. Oh, so I'm gonna put from 10, I mean, I have to.
You have to put a range?
Yeah.
Ooh, that could be a long one. I mean, I think the last one went 6 hours.
Oh, okay.
I know I stayed for the whole thing and
I just say all day.
I think we might have to bring lunch in.
And you do need a proposed agenda.
Yeah, and as far as the proposed agenda, I think right now, just put, unfinished business and new business. And I'll let you know if we have anything to add, actually items to add to it. But like I said, right now, I don't foresee anything. It's just precaution.
To do what? If it's a working lunch, yes.
Excellent. Let's do that. All right, excellent. I think hopefully it's not legal, but if anybody wants to feed the crowd lunch so that it doesn't have to, they might be happier. Hungry people. No, I'm kidding.
Might be able to do like snacks. I don't
Oh,
know if
yeah.
It's actually not a bad idea.
If Ben said we get food, I'm telling you right now, I'm on it.
All right. Second item in new business is waiver of state aid rules for Lawrence County Public Library, one of my districts.
They've had extraordinary challenges and it's temporary. So, I mean, I think if they're in good faith, they will be back to normal.
No, and they're a good library. Like I know they've been struggling.
Yes, and part of it is that they had some unexpected issues with personnel, like health stuff.
Health stuff.
That they need, it just takes time. Some
Yes.
people are gonna be out for a while, but the intention is that they will be back up to within.
They're just late on getting stuff together.
Well, it's that right now they had to reduce their hours because they don't have the people to work, but they will, the intention is not, this is not a like, they haven't been cut funding or anything like that. It's just physically they can't have people.
Yeah.
They don't have enough staff. So once everyone recovers and whatnot, they'll be back up to where they need to be state aid wise. And so just discussing it with Stephanie and Kellen, we believe that it deserves a waiver.
All right, I would accept the motion for the waiver.
So moved.
I've got a motion from Jerry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, is there any objection? Hearing no objection, the waiver is approved. And then with that, we'll move on to the director's report.
You need to do the bylaws.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was
You wrote
looking
it
at the
down.
items that I
Yeah.
haven't written on here. Yes, the amended agenda included an updated bylaws for the PBD. Do I have a, that was distributed, correct? It was not in the
Yeah.
packet.
Right.
It's not in the packet, but we
Yes.
have, yeah, we have.
Because they just met this week and updated and approved their new bylaws.
Do you have a copy for
in the
everybody?
department,
I
so.
thought everybody got a copy.
And what are it doesn't indicate what the changes are.
I'm sorry, yeah, they were very
Oh, you're
minor.
right, we did, I just have.
It was, some of the agency names changed, and so they just wanted it to be current.
So is that the only, it was just name changes?
I believe so.
Yeah,
Do you know so or
Oh,
believe so?
I believe so. I'll have to get verification from Rhonda, who's out today.
Oh, I got that.
Yeah, she gave us
Okay, I got you.
a copy of it,
Got
yes.
I was listening on.
Yeah. Okay. I want to. Yes.
And Kellen, you have reviewed, you've reviewed them, the changes?
Yeah, because I mean, I was at the meeting, actually.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And there was no substantial change, correct?
No.
Okay, I would accept a motion to approve the bylaws changes. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion from Drew. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Debbie. Is there any discussion? I hear no discussion. Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, the bylaws are approved. All right, so now that brings us to the director's report.
Excuse me, I have something else under new business. Can I
Yes.
make a motion about something?
Yes,
Okay, first I want to thank you for all of the work y'all have done filling in as the interim. That has been a huge responsibility. But I did want to make a motion that we open up the application process for the APLS director's position so that we can fill it for a time period of 2 weeks. And what I would like to make the motion of is to give the chairman the authority to review the applications, selecting 3 to bring before the board for a final vote.
Okay.
For 2 weeks,
The application, so people could submit it for 2
but we
weeks.
have to publish. don't we?
Yeah, publish it and give people 2 weeks.
2 weeks is long.
Well, one thing
We
is,
normally, and when we've done this before, we publish in national publications and different, as I recall.
Yeah.
So it's always a multi-month process. It's not something to be done in 2 weeks under any, unless there's a preordained person that,
Because it's been
It's
like
been
11
selected.
years since we had to do this.
yeah. So one way, I've done it, I guess 2 different times, and we also.
why couldn't
always
we do
went-
it 2 weeks?
Because we need to advertise it, and it needs to be in the state publications of the Library Association. It was always in the national ones.
Yeah, I think.
One of the
I think
best
2 weeks
directors.
though with online now is, I mean, people have access to
But
it
it
tonight.
sounds like you have somebody in mind that's going to apply that you want. It
No,
sounds
as a
like
matter
it.
of fact, I've looked at the process, and it actually is very tough because you have to live in this area. You have to have a Library of Sciences degree. There's a lot of.
Well, I guess one of the concerns
So I
I've
think we
got,
need to fill
Amy, is when Dr. Pack was director, she was being told by librarians around the state that you would approach people offering them this job.
How can I offer anybody
Well,
a job?
you didn't have the authority.
No,
but
I don't.
It was multiple librarians
I've
have
not
said
offered
that.
anybody a job.
Which was inappropriate at the time. But 2 weeks, we ought to have a normal procedure. And you ought to go back and look as to what we've done in the past.
Okay, I was gonna ask Ben, but are you familiar at all with the requirements, like if we hire from within versus without? if
No.
There's,
I'll be honest, I can already answer that question.
if you could come in here for a minute.
Yeah, you really need to talk to your HR. That's an area I don't get involved in.
Probably for a reason, maybe.
I was hoping lawyers would actually be good for something.
Well, there were multiple reports of librarians telling you that.
What is,
I don't have the authority to do.
is anyone around the table familiar with past, either from this agency or another agency, where something like this was?
Well,
like,
I've been
with the windows?
I've been on this board under 5 different governors, I guess. So I think we've gone through at least 3 searches.
Did you
And
hire Dr.
each
Veach?
of-
Did
Pardon?
you do Dr. Veach?
Yeah.
Okay.
What we always did, as I recall, there was a committee appointed, but there was advertising in various national publications. The applications were received. The committee reviewed them, and then the top 2 or 3 candidates normally would come in and be interviewed by the full board. So it wasn't a process that was done quickly. It was
The only thing I would say is,
multi-month process.
the only thing I would say is so different now is everything online, happens so fast now versus back when you had to mail things.
Well, this is going to be a difficult search because this state agency has
Or an
become
easy one.
so controversial.
We're not hard on you, Kate.
Yeah.
I think that Helen is an excellent candidate and
Well,
has
that's
a lot of
inappropriate right
popularity.
there.
Yeah.
Would you share with the board like the procedure, like if we hire from internal or if we search like timeframes, any timeframes, like times for advertising, that type of thing, like your recommendation? Like, on this?
I will be happy to, because I've been in touch with state personnel about this. And then we can go one of 2 ways. You could go with Kellen and just promote her. And since she's already she's a merit system employee, it could be effective the 1st or the 16th. And since she is a merit system employee, she would only be eligible for a 2-step raise. And so that would bring her in at step 1 of the direct, I think it's pay grade 88. So it could happen today. But if you go outside, and it would be effective the 1st or the 16th. But if you go outside, it is incumbent upon the board, and you set your time limit. The board has to solicit the applications. The board has to do the interviews. And if you're bringing somebody in, it will have to go to the governor, and it will have to go through the state personnel board, and it has to be into the state personnel board 10 days before the meeting. And then, and if you bring them in at step 1, we don't have to go through finance, but if you're wanting above the minimum, then we have to go through finance for that.
What is step 1?
Oh, I don't know.
It'll take me a minute. So to advertise it, how long would 2 weeks not be sufficient to
No.
advertise? Okay.
No.
So what would you
Unless
suggest?
you have somebody in mind.
No, what
That
would
was
you
what I said.
suggest then to advertise what? type
Oh,
of-
gosh, like I said, if you're advertising and then, like I say, state personnel does not help with that unless they'll be kind enough to put like our announcement. Like if you've ever looked at their
Right.
website, they'll have like a little banner running across like special announcements. They would put it there, but I would say 30 to 60 days, 30 minimum.
Yeah, that's what we've done.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we've had internal people apply in the past.
Right,
also.
right.
So.
Yeah, that
you
would
know,
work.
Internal are not prohibited from.
Right.
But
So I'll change my motion to 30 days then. How's that?
30 days is probably sufficient. I think we need to look at what was done in the past in terms of where we published this.
I'll see what I can find.
Yeah, see what you could find.
Sure.
And then whatever, John, I think, have a motion, whatever she finds, how long it was, that's what we can go with.
Well, I still stay with my motion for 30 days.
All right,
Some of these
did you find, I'm
publications,
curious,
we
because
will
here's
not-
what, okay, so here's what,
I believe it's,
here's one of my-
pay grade 88.
here's one of my, concerns with this process is, like, obviously, we know the people in this room, right? We know Kellen, as the current, director.
Candidate, yeah.
I am curious on the pay level because that can directly impact also, if you're looking outside this organization, the quality of people that you would even get to apply, right? Which to me is a concern because if you don't know the person, if you're talking about the tier one being the lowest entry level, like the entry level that you would need approval
say-
for hire.
Well, see, if you go, step one, you don't need it, but if you're gonna bring them in above the minimum, you would need approval.
But you just get approved.
Yeah.
You're not stuck at level. All right, some counts.
All right.
You could go with Kellen and it'd be approved on the first of the 16th.
Okay, all right. And you're maintaining your motion?
Yes, for 30 days though.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I would offer an amendment that it be 60 days. 30 days is not going to be even time to put it in any publications.
Well, and
if we sent them
I
today,
said 30 to 60.
yeah, 60 is a more
But-
appropriate number.
Unless you've got somebody.
I don't say 30.
Okay, we have a motion. We need a second though.
I second it.
Okay,
First we had an amendment, so we have to vote on my amendment.
well, right, but before we even had the amendment, if there was no second, it would die for lack of a second. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Now we would have discussion, which we actually kind of did out of order, didn't we, Ben? Is there any more discussion? Which would be appropriate for you to make your amendment. So we have an
That it be
amendment.
a 60 days, which is historically what we
Okay, we have
allow a will search.
Okay, so we have an amendment for 60 days. Is there a second on that amendment? Hearing no amendment, or hearing no second, the amendment fails for lack of a second. We'll go back to the original motion, which was a 30-day period. Is there any more discussion on that before we vote on it? All right, all in favor, say aye. All those opposed?
Opposed.
Carries 3-1. All right. Next, so that finishes up the business. Next item is the director's report. Ellen?
Go ahead and get started.
Do you want to know?
Yeah. I guess that's now become important, right?
It's 107,824. But I have a financial report included in here. We're at the end of the fiscal year, so we're wrapping up everything. The only thing really I have to note is last month, beginning of last month, I want to say they came, the first part of August, the examiners of public accounts came. It's our time to be have a legal compliance audit, and so
We had nothing else going on.
But they finished that, and we're just waiting on them to come back with the results and do like a exit conference with us. But it went well.
It
from
went
what I
very
could tell.
well,
Yeah, they were
and
super
it was nice this time because they did a lot of it remotely. Because when they were here, they camped out for like 2 months or
Yeah,
something.
they look at everything from.
But we
like,
could send it to them and they could do it
inventory,
there.
personnel records, expenditures, all the things, just.
Understood. Because when Dr. Pack came in, we had a hall. First she came in from the previous. Report of the examiners, with a number of exceptions, particularly a lot of missing items.
Okay, all right, excellent. Thank you.
John,
All right,
I
next.
have to go to another meeting.
Thank you, sir. All right, next item on the agenda is the administrators' meetings statistics.
I believe they're just in your
They're in the
packet for your
packet.
review.
Excellent. And then APLS building update.
We need Randy.
I'm gonna text Randy because y'all skipped.
Yeah, can we move?
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah.
Randy's my favorite. No, I love all of you guys.
I know you like Randy because he's in the tree during the
He
tornado.
got picked up by a tornado and he lived. So I feel like that man has a purpose for his life. I don't know what it is, but he's, yeah.
That's right.
All right, calendar for meetings for fiscal year 2026.
Okay.
Do you prefer the 1 o'clock meeting to the 10 o'clock? What are your thoughts?
1 o'clock.
Yeah, I might want to.
I don't like that.
Get some work done and come over. I like.
The driving through North Alabama, I prefer it. I like it. So what about the staff? Any input?
We're gonna have to be here.
We're gonna be here
Okay.
anyway.
We'll keep doing.
We could do 7:15. That's when I get here.
I'm out. We'll know the board wants to get rid of me. When they make the board meeting 7:15, I'll just drop off and be gone. All right, so I think we just for fiscal 26, we continue 1 o'clock. Do we want to maintain the Thursday?
I think it's good.
All right. So we'll just maintain the current then at 1 o'clock on the Thursdays as normal for every other month.
Okay.
Well, I guess, do we need a motion on that or just, because that's not a motionable item, right?
I don't think so. We just said it.
Yeah, all right, perfect.
Randy's here. Randy's here.
Randy, you want to give us an update?
Our project that we were moving forward with, was remodeling and upgrading our bathrooms. It's still in process. We're at preliminary place right now. They're drawing up some plans. Our little budget, what we were thinking it was gonna come in at, was slightly higher with all this things going on. We're still gonna do it. We're still moving forward. Talk to Jennifer and Kelvin, and we have the money, we have the funding for it. We're going to continue it as a project, add on to what we're already doing. For that to happen, the company that was doing the work would have to carry insurance from that point all the way until this project starts, which would have cost them about $100,000. So we elected to change that, and we're putting it out to bid. So it should be going out for advertising hopefully this coming week, and then we'll see what we have. But we have moved up from around 100,000 to around 140 to 100 PG in the preliminary steps. So a little more money than what we're expecting, but in the long run, it was probably savings of 150 to 200,000. So, but that's where we're at with that project, and look at that. So we got any work from you.
Very good.
Hopefully next time y'all show up, we'll be doing something.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. I mean, any questions for any before we let them go? I have questions, but they're all personal, so we'll. All right, thanks, sir. All right, so next up is APLS building that we did. So calendar, we did that. Front desk receptionist.
Yeah, the stats are in there, I believe. For
Yeah,
you.
so that's just review the stats. All right, nice. New director's orientation.
I didn't know if Katie wanted to say anything about that.
Yeah, I mean,
How many, you said, you were talking the other day, and you said we have a lot of new directors, right? Like
there's a lot of turnover. It's obviously been a very volatile time in our career, and while we had our RSVP open for the new directors we had, we probably had turnover of another 6, and then 3 more after this orientation. So we're running them. We can't wait a year, so we're trying to run them closer to 6 months. So we'll have another one. I need to look at the calendar. I'm thinking like late February, early March. I need to look at spring break, and try to avoid that because that reason why I like late February is hopefully the surprise stuff will, but how it is in Alabama, there'll be a surprise storm in March. Regardless, we try to keep the orientation to about 20-25 people, because we want them to have a more community feel and be able to like, we seat people strategically, so we don't really want to seat people close to each other, like as in district wise. Love to get, and also size and library wise, because that way they're getting information from librarians, bigger libraries, librarians, smaller libraries.
You're the cool organizers who put people, they separate the friends, so they have to meet these people.
Well,
I know about you, your kind.
But it's small enough that people honestly by the lunchtime.
It's good, right?
they're
It creates
really-
community.
It does, and they keep in touch with each other. We give them all the contact information of the people who are there. We obviously have our all of our contact information. On the stats, it says that we had like 2 presenters. Those were 2 outside presenters. The consulting and the reference people and people all around in the building, they're also doing stuff. We really try to make it a full agency-wide activity. We take them on a tour. They go to IT, they talk to Jay, they go downstairs to BPD, they go everywhere because we want them to know what we're doing. And then we present on, we've really, I think, really honed in on the really important stuff that people need to know when you're first getting into this job, because the whole, or their director position and the things, the expectations we have and the paperwork they need to have in and all that kind of stuff. And I think that, I feel like we do a really successful job when we get the feedback. I feel so much better. I'm not so anxious because, I think it can be very overwhelming, especially some of these people have never worked in the library before, because we're talking about itty bitty communities.
Sure.
And they've never worked in the library before, and we're trying to tell, we offer trainings throughout the year. I'm training people I trained somebody on the survey this morning. I do one-on-ones. Stephanie does one-on-one trainings over WebEx, because we want people to feel like, I don't ever want somebody to feel like they've got a stupid question and they don't want to ask in front of people. So that's the reason why I switched to one-on-ones, and I'm thinking it's paying off. Anyways, love new directors, and we will continue to do it, and we continue to tweak our presentations, and we did a kind of follow-up meeting. We do this every time. We do a follow-up meeting afterwards and talk about the things we might want to change a little bit, because I don't want to wait until a month before the next one and have forgotten all the things that I wanted to, make sure that we, do whatever. So I think it's one of the best things we do. But I'm biased.
But she put it together. Katie, talk about the panel.
Oh, and we invite a panel of directors to come in and
From different sizes.
It's really
Right. Yeah, that's fine.
We brought someone in who went to the orientation the year before, so she could talk about her experience, kind of going forward and how it benefited her. Talked to really big library, really small libraries, and then it just kind of it's an open session for the librarians to ask questions, kind of get kind of the crazy stories that we all have had. If you've worked in a library, you only need to work there 2 to 3 days to get a crazy story. And I think once again it also builds some camaraderie, and it also introduces very new librarians to extra people who can be mentors to them going forward. So I'm very pleased with how it's organized, and I think like I said, I think it's one of the best things that the library development does, because that's really what. So anyways,
I don't know if you can tell she's excited, but
I want people to not be so anxious and so worried about things when a primary part of our job here is to help people. And, whenever I do my trainings, I always tell them, you can call me or text me, or not text me, please. You can call me or email me about any question, even if we've already gone over it. There's a lot of information that comes along with it. I don't care. I've literally trained someone full training 4 years in a row because she just wants to be trained every year. And, and so I will make time for people as best I can. And I probably get in about 20 trainings a year.
Oh, okay.
And then there's hundreds of phone calls and emails. But
when is the next director's meeting?
So we
admin meeting?
Talked about it, about the admin. So the admin meeting, Helen and I kind of conferred, but the admin meeting is just a week before the public comment period. And to me, it doesn't really make sense to have a meeting before
and then a hearing.
Because I think that people will have a lot to say, but really, they probably should be
They
saying
won't know for sure the outcome.
that's
Right?
exactly it. So I think we've talked about, this is up to Helen, of course, talked about giving them credit for this and have a big meeting plan for January where we have some speakers that we want to bring in. But I just think that having an admin meeting right before something so big didn't make sense and you think to come in.
Yeah, I mean, what are we gonna say?
love it.
Oh, the meeting's next week. Well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you later. I mean.
Well, we don't know what's gonna happen at it, right? Yeah, no, I think it's smart. Keep me in the loop on that. I don't know whether they would have string me up or not, but I would like to come.
Yeah, I would love to come.
I mean, probably not all day, but like I see you laughing back there. What does that mean? No, heckling from the stands.
Matt's just a real happy guy.
All right, so, and then I know we have our service pins.
And neither
which
one of them are here tonight.
I'll still sign whatever I need to do, whatever I need to do. Anything else before we adjourn? Colin, anything else you wanna?
I don't think so. I did want to make a comment, about what Katie was saying about new directors. One of the things that made her feel strong one to do new directors is she was a director before she came here.
Yeah.
And so she's been where these people are. And so that's what. So.
Well, I really appreciate the staff. I have been on the phone a lot with Kellen and Katie as well. Just
We're like, hey, bud, how's it going?
I'm Kellen's messenger.
She is.
On to it.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Katie texts me, you need to call.
Yeah.
That's what I get. But no, thank you all. I would, is there any objection on adjournment? There ain't no objection. We are adjourned.
All right.